There are a lot of weapons and items in Dead Cells, some of which are known to be very powerful, but some lean on the weaker side. Today, let's explore the selection of items that never made it to the rounds of buffs that we've had in previous updates. Now, to avoid triggering the fan bases of any said weapons, I think it's very likely that they will get directly buffed or indirectly made better through synergies from other weapons. And it's not that any one of them aren't interesting, it's just that they're mostly shackled by poor damage numbers. Anyways, today I'll be returning to form and we'll be talking about what I believe to be the 6 undertuned Dead Cells items that could still need buffs. The first contender on this list became the victim of a nerf in the past, Sadist Stiletto. What used to be one of the most versatile brutality weapons, now while still has early access to synergies, just doesn't cut it in terms of damage numbers compared to how it did previously. I mean, I can't exactly blame developers for nerfing it since this short sword can pretty much find a source of bleed or poison in almost every Dead Cells item under the sun. In fact, just pick up open wounds and it's literally a guaranteed crit every hit. It became one of the most brain-dead strategies to ever exist until it got nerfed. Now, I've tested it in the normal run as well as in the training room. The damage is just not comparable to what it was before. While the stiletto is very easy to get going and represents a good way for newer players to learn more about combining elements to get the stiletto to crit, it's kind of basic if you consider the numerous amounts of DLCs that introduce weapons of very stylish gameplay. So until the stiletto gets damage buff, into the gutter it goes. The second item on the list might not be one you expect, but it's an item that's always never been that good to begin with. With some mechanics I just learned prior to making this video, I never realized how many problems it had. Corrosive Cloud. Let's start with something I found out only recently about the skill. If you look at the top left corner of pretty much every offensive weapon, there is a modifier that determines how much damage it deals. The higher the amount of scrolls you got, and the higher quality of the item, the better damage. However, something unique with the Cloud is that it gives a damage reduction to your character, even though it's an offensive skill. Now, the damage reduction part makes sense if the skill itself was defensive, like Ice Armor and Tonic. But with a skill that's meant to deal damage, I don't know. The problem here is that the DLT from the 2 instances of Poison and Bleed don't actually scale with your scrolls. It's a flat rate across the board, no matter how early or late into the game you are. Now, that's only the first of its problems. While the prospect of applying both Bleed and Poison may sound cool, the truth is that while enemies are in the cloud, they don't actually build up the 2 DOTs. Only one of each status effect can be present at a time. This is very different than something like the Alchemic Carbine, which unleashes a cloud of poison, except it actually keeps building poison stacks continuously. Not to mention, the Corrosive Cloud has an absurd 20-second cooldown. Usually you want a skill to have an immediate effect when you use it, but this ain't it, chief. Maybe if I wanted a placeholder item to apply bleed or poison, I could consider it, but this cloud is anything but corrosive. The third item on this list, unfortunately in contrast to its adorable appearance, it's just a little bit too slow, despite claiming to hug your legs. This new pet from the Queen and the Sea DLC supposedly sticks to your sides and licks enemies to apply bleed. If it's dealt enough damage, it will transform into its less adorable adult version. Now, I'm not against the concept of this pet. A constant source of damage and bleed can be pretty sweet. However, my time when using this 8-legged friend has been less than stellar. Since I'm someone that favors a fast playstyle, I found that in most encounters, the Leghugger only shows up by my side, doing something when I've already cleared most, if not all, of the monsters nearby. It just lags too far behind for its own good. The only case where I would say it shines a lot is in bosses, since you're in the arena for a good minute or two, and the Leghugger actually has a chance to do something. It can help you to stun the bosses and potentially buy you more time. Now, I'm not sure what a practical buff to this pet would be, since I got no clue what the programming behind the scene looks like for the AI of the Leghugger, but maybe make it more aggressive, where you can do something similar to Maria's cat, where you can call it to your side immediately via the skill button. Just some random thoughts. Maybe it'll be this little guy's turn to shine someday. This next upcoming entry in the list may surprise you. Believe it or not, I was actually going to do a showcase on this weapon. Except I just kept on dying and eventually gave up. And that weapon is Oiled Sword. The vampire killer before the vampire killer existed. The crit condition is that it will deal yellow numbers for the first 10 seconds, when a target is set on fire. It almost seems like a match made in heaven with a torch, given that the oiled sword will cause its targets to not only burn, but become engulfed in burning oil, which is the blue flames. On paper, this idea doesn't sound half bad. Not shabby at all for early designs in the game's lifecycle. The main issue with this is that just like the Sadist stiletto, the oil sword is held back by its low numbers. Now, I agree with the way of thinking that the best builds / synergies in the game are the ones that require a little bit of thinking but not too much. The oiled sword actually falls into the sweet spot of that. You gotta be mindful to take advantage of burning enemies, but other than that, it would have been a cool weapon to experiment with and do some strategic thinking. Now, if it weren't for the fact that the vampire killer from the Castlevania DLC completely blows the oiled sword right out of the water, its range and ease of use just makes it better in almost every way possible. However, I don't think it's the end of the world if there's a light version of that in the base game. After all, the oiled sword walked, so the vampire killer could run. Number 5 on this list, not exactly a weapon, but we're gonna talk about a mutation instead. Acceptance. Cuts curses in half, but eating food will curse you. This means that the normal curse count of 10 will be reduced to 5, and eating food will also curse you for 5 points. So this is once again one of those beginner traps, where despite being extremely difficult to unlock, it may seem very appealing that such a threatening mechanic that instantly kills you gets halved. I mean, getting hit while cursed is a game over, so being exposed less to that risk has got to be good, right? Well, I'm on the boat that a mutation is worth it if the effect benefits you all the time. Acceptance, however, only works when you're taking a curse, making it very, very situational. But that's not all. It also comes with a demerit. Now, when you prepare to take a curse, you're very much conscious of every curse chest you take. But eating food? Now that is an easier mistake to make. This can have the unfortunate side effect where you forget that the mutation is active and accidentally eat food to curse yourself and potentially screwing up the run. Especially eating before a boss fight. 5 kills off the curse, if you really think about it, is not that big of an impact. If I were to buff this mutation, very easy. I just remove the food demerit. Just make it half the kills needed for a curse without any drawbacks. I think the situational nature of mutation already makes its use very limited, so why not make the duration while it's actually useful a bit better? The last entry on this list is one I used to think was actually better than some other skills, but appears I was wrong. Ice Grenade. Freezes things in an AoE on demand. Pretty cool, right? It's like a portable fridge. Well, if you discount the fact that it has a long cooldown of 20 seconds, it kinda gets outclassed by the stun grenade in every way possible. When you hit an enemy that's frozen, it will undo the freeze and they will be able to attack again. But stun? They become a sitting duck for a couple seconds, enabling you to do whatever insane combo you want with your weapons. While you could probably make an argument that freeze is better when you're running the ice crossbow, but in pretty much every scenario, stun works just as well as freeze. And the aspect of the stun grenade that I was wrong about during my first couple years of playing was that it actually worked quite decently well on the first major boss fight. You can actually lock them down for a fairly long time, and with Heart of Ice, you can just get the cooldown back in no time. Now, I still wouldn't take the stun grenade for endgame bosses, but it's definitely better than I expected. Now, I realize that I've been talking about the stun grenade more than the freeze, but honestly, just decrease the cooldown, and we'll be cooking again. So, that's my current list of the underperforming weapons in Dead Cells version 3.4. Let me know what your picks for what items could get a buff in the future. Anyways, I realize I haven't been posting much Dead Cells content recently, but give me some weeks and I'll get back into the groove of things. Hopefully there's gonna be a new showcase coming out, as well as some other surprises. So stay tuned, and always remember, have fun with the game.